Hello, this is Venture Central with Michał Olszewski and Arek Hajduk. What's going on, Arek? What we have
Hello.
planned for today?
Hey, we have a really interesting guest, Anna Magiera from iClub, and we will be speaking about business angels, about Poland, Ukraine, CE, all the stuff that's usually interesting for us
Startup
and our viewers.
investing. Startup
Startup
investing.
investing, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. So we will introduce Anna to our stream in a moment. But before that, please remember to support us. You can order Nika Lab supplements through our QR code, and there's a nice discount for you there, 20% off. So please use that, scan that code, use that code. There will be a link in the description for you also. So remember about that. And right now, let's introduce our guest. She's already waiting for us. Yeah, yeah, she's here. Hello.
Hi. Hi. Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Anna.
Hi.
Let's start with your introduction. Anna, who are you? What's your experience in venture capital world and startup investing world?
Well, I'm Anna Magiera, and I'm originally from Ukraine, now based in Poland. And I have been here since like 10 years already. I'm managing director at iClub, one of the largest European syndicates, which is now 6,000 members in 42 countries. I have been in the industry for a while, so it's 18 years already, I think. So I started in my early days in consulting and worked in big four companies for a while. But then I joined a private equity fund, and that's how my journey in investing started. And since then, I worked in different funds. I worked with startups. I worked with venture builders and with accelerators, but everything around venture and startups. So that's my world. And I'm often asked, "Do you like it?" Yeah, I am. I do like it a lot. I think that's the industry that is very close to my heart. Yeah, that's basically me. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting. And I'm happy to share some of the insights and some of the thoughts I have about our industry.
Yeah. So the
Super.
IC Club thing, it sounds interesting, and that's why we started talking. I think. So can you please tell us something about it? What's the offer that it has for startup
Sure,
founders in
sure.
Poland specifically, but not only other countries also.
Yeah, so we are basically in iClub. We are investing in the companies that are supported by the fund, which is TA Ventures Fund, the fund that is a part of our ecosystem. So we are kind of, one family, so to say, of companies where the fund is doing very, day to day VC job, looking for deal flow, reviewing thousands of companies and then choosing the best companies to invest in. And after the fund invests, we might either join the same round or we might join in the following rounds when the company already shows some traction and some results. So iClub investors could then join as a syndicate the same deal. So basically it's important for us that the company is kind of selected by the fund, right? And the fund finds it interesting and wants to support the company. If it does, then we are basically happy to support it as well through our syndicate, together with our 6,000 investors. And we are investing in different geographies. So as the fund comes from Ukrainian roots, right? Many things that we only invest in Ukraine, but that's not true. The fund started and was focused from the day one on like global markets, right? And we have a huge portion of US companies in our portfolio. We have European companies in our portfolio, now also Asian and Middle East. Of course, we have Eastern European founders and Ukrainian founders in our portfolio as well, and the companies. But those companies are either built to be pan-European or they are built to be like global, and they are targeting large markets like the US market, right? So that's how we kind of choose the companies that we want to work with.
So you told us that first the venture fund has to select it, but
Yeah.
can you tell us to our listeners and viewers, how this syndicate thing works? Because there is like 6,000 people. Does it mean that 6,000 people are investing at the same time, or is there any process that you choose specific deals for a specific person?
Yeah, so basically today we are very proud to be a kind of product driven company, because we have our product that we built as a tool for our investors. So investors, all the investors have the access to this tool, to the app, which is app and very kind of user friendly and modern. So they open the app and they see the deal flow, right? So we present the deals, which are actually the companies that are currently fundraising. So usually we present 2-3 deals per month. So then investors can look at the deals available and choose those they want to invest in. So it's very important that in iClub, each investor is kind of building their portfolio independently, right? And they select from a specific pipeline, right? A specific deal flow, but they are building the portfolio independently. And so when they decide the company they want to invest, they just press the button and the magic begins, because all the processes, everything is automated today, and they can go through the process within the app very fast, very smoothly. And we like prepare all the legal structure, right? So we are deliver based syndicate, and we prepare this structure so that the investors that are interested to participate in particular company, in particular deal, they can invest. Usually, depending, of course, on the allocation that we have in the company, that might be from like 20, 30 investors in one company to 100 investors in one company, right? Because sometimes we raise a couple of millions for a company. So, and we just onboard those investors through our deliver SPV, and they participate in the deal.
Okay, so
Okay,
you
so
set up a special company for each deal.
Yes.
And then who is the shareholder in a startup? Because from the founder perspective, it's important how
Yes.
many people he has on board.
Yeah,
How
of
does
course,
it work?
we know that, and that's why we like thinking about that, because we are also kind of supporting our portfolio as a fund. So we thought about that, and what we did was so we have a fund which is called TA Ventures, right? So this is a fund which is investing in the company, and the company that we are using as a structure for syndicate has also TA Ventures in the name, so that it's not like different names, different structures, but it has the same name, but just the addition is a bit different. And then this is the part, like this is the shareholder, not like 100 private investors jump into the cap table. No, because that won't work, of course. But we have the structure which is very much regulated, and there is a very strict QIC process, so we know who is investing. For us, it's important, because we know that for founders it's very important who is behind that entity, that delivers SPV. So we make sure that only right people are behind that. And so there is just one line in the cap table, one additional line, but that has the same name as a fund. So neither founders nor other investors are kind of think about
split
it.
like that.
Yeah, nothing like that. So we know it's important.
Okay, so because our podcast, our vlog is probably watched by like two types of people at least. One are founders, and one are investors. So let's understand, this from the startup perspective, maybe from the founder perspective, how to get into your deal flow. Like, what should I do as a startup founder to become eligible for this kind of funding? Where to apply? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically, you can apply through anyone from our team, and through our, like, we have a website, we have, but of course, we prefer warm introduction. So if you come from the introduction made by our portfolio company, somebody from our portfolio companies, somebody from the founders, they introduce you, then of course it's like the best way, right? Because we support our founders. We build very close relations with them, because we believe that companies change, ideas change, but strong founders, they stay, and we have very long-term relations with them. So if you are introduced by the founders, it's great. Also, we look at the companies introduced by any of our co-investors, and we co-invest with many funds and angel investors, but super angel investors, right, from Europe and from US. So if you come from that introduction, it's also would be a priority to us, of course. But we search for deals. We want to see all the interesting deals out there. So we use different channels as well. That's why if you even come to us in a cold way, right, but you have a great idea, and we haven't been able to get to you before, and we don't have any, I would say, any mutual connections still. But you have a great idea. So our investment team would definitely look at the idea and communicate with the team and discuss further. And if it's interesting, then the investment committee makes the decision, and then the whole process starts.
Sounds like we could be like a warm intro source also. But
Yeah, of course.
like, to follow up on that question, is there any like specific, I know, level those companies should be at? Just a idea level, or maybe income already, break even. What's
Yeah.
yours?
So we are like, as a VC, of course, we would prefer to have some results, but we are investing in the company even like pre-seed, and we invest in company. We have invested in companies with no product ready, or an MVP in the process. But what is important for us, if this is the case, if there is no traction, then it's important for us that that founders, they have previous experience, and that is kind of successful, or they have very strong background working in top firms, and having got that that knowledge and industry insights that could help them really win. So that's very important for us. Or if there are some people in the team that are kind of they have unique expertise, because we have such companies, especially in biotech, and these teams, they have people, and some of these experts, there are kind of 2 experts like this in the whole world. So that's, for us, of course, is a sign that's the kind of very important goodwill, and we would look at this such kind of company. So we would join at the pre-seed and seed stage, so pretty early, and we are industry agnostic at the kind of at the basic, but we have industries that we like. So we like fintech, we like anything around digital health, we like biotech, and what is very interesting, and I would say that that differentiates us from many VCs in Europe, because it's more common for the US market, is that we invest in consumer companies. We invest in D2C, right, direct to consumer. So we invest in brands, and we have very interesting brands in our portfolio already. That's a pretty large portfolio, but still we are looking for more. And if you are such a company in Europe and you're building a brand, and you have some first traction, so we would definitely be interested to look at you.
You mentioned those co-investments, and that's a possibility of forum intro. Is there any list that we can see that on your website, or where I can see with whom you have invested?
Well, we don't have a list. Well, we have we have the shared portfolio, so we have our portfolio on the website, and then you can see which investors invested in which companies. But I would say, like, for example, all Ukrainian VCs or Ukrainian rooted VCs are our co-investors. So we invested at least in one deal with them, maybe more. So definitely like that. We have a very good network in DACH region, for example. We have invested with company with investment firms there, as well as in Southern Europe, for example, which is an interesting region for us because we like it, since there is this connection. Companies that succeed in Spain, they have a very nice road to Latin America, and we had a couple of cases like that with really great results. So we like that kind of scenario. And of course, US funds, etc. So we don't have many in Eastern Europe in terms of VCs from Eastern Europe, but still there are some funds that we have invested together, or we know pretty well. So I believe that very soon, there will be something that we invest in together.
Okay. Can you help us understand the potential LP, perspective? So, or a business angel, if you will. So I'm a successful founder. I want to get into your deal flow. How much money do I have to have, and what should I do to get into the club?
Yeah, so basically, you need just to download the app, which can be easily found in App Store. I will also share the link, and you could add it to the description of our conversation, as well as the link to our website as a fund, so that all the audiences would find what is important for them. So basically, we have our app, and the registration will take you like 5 minutes, maybe not more, not longer, and straight away, without any kind of obligations or any payments whatsoever, you have access to deal flow, right? And you can look at the deals, you can participate in our deep dive calls, you can just be the part of our ecosystem. And if you want to invest, the minimum ticket for one deal is $5,000. So this is a minimum ticket for one deal. So basically, our investors, the profile has changed, because when we started, our minimum check was higher, and we worked with more or less people from around the financial industry. But today we have really private investors on board, people who just entrepreneurs, business owners, people that have earned some capital, and they are investing in different assets. They have some real estate, they invest into bonds, they have some cryptocurrencies, etc. But they also see that, well, like tech companies, that's the part of our life. Every single day we are using some piece of tech, right? And now we are using Restream, for example, right? So we use Google. So it's impossible to imagine that your day passes and you don't use any software. That's why they see that, and they understand that that's a part of our life. And 10 years ago, to be an angel, especially in our region, it was something like, angels are those guys with a lot of money, with like large capital, and with some specific connections, because they can get into the deal flow. Today, that's not like that. These are people who just join our syndicate, that have I don't know, like from 25 to 50,000 as an initial capital. They want to start investing, and they think that they understand that they can like continue in this, I would say, with this flow, because we always explain that it's important to build a portfolio, right? And it's important to build a diversified portfolio. So if you want to start investing, you need to understand that you will be able to build this portfolio within like of 20 plus companies within next 2-3 years. So that, right, you have like 25,000 today, and you will have like 25 or maybe more thousand next year, and then next year, and you will be actually dedicating this part of your capital to potential investments, right? And then you will get to that 20 plus companies at some point, and be a venture and an angel venture investor.
So this small
Sorry, I'm sharing. This is the
Yeah.
app we're talking about, right? So
Right.
sorry, Arek, to interrupt you, but this sounded like pretty super easy. You just download an app and you can start investing. So there are some KYC controls. You have to upload something in the middle, or Is it
You
just
need,
Wild West?
yes. You need to go through the QIC when you want to invest. So you join the platform, right? And you look at the deals. At the point when you decide, okay, I want to invest, there's a button called I want to invest, and you press the button, and then you go through the QIC. You fill in the forms, then you sign all documents and you pay the invoice. Of course, there should be QIC. It's just an important part for us as well as for our investors. We want a safe space, right? We want to know who our investors are. It's not that they just QIC because like everybody does that. No, we want to know our investors, and that's why it's. But we understand that before anybody starts to invest, they want to see how this product is working, what is out there. Are there any deals I would like to invest, or these people are just, saying that they have nice deal flow and I won't like anything. So we want investors to join to see how it works. And then when they are ready to participate, they participate. So no pressure, but yeah.
So just taste it, and then you will see if you like
Absolutely.
it.
You know,
Okay.
that's kind of that's how we are, that's how we believe in the value of our product, So we are like we are happy to see anybody on board because we know that at some point they will see the company that will trigger them and they would like to invest.
Okay, and I will be now a bit skeptical because
Okay,
I
sure.
understand that lowering the barrier to entry, right, and
Yeah.
giving me an option to invest $5,000, it's a nice way to start, right? But first of all, you said about setting up portfolio, right? So
Yes.
like if I want to have 10, 20 companies, then I still have to have 50, 100K, right? That's not a 5K deal. That's obviously that's it's a nice first ticket, but you have to have some more money and be investor, right? In a
Yes.
way, right? So that's one thing that I wanted to ask you. And the second
Mhm.
thing I wanted to ask you, if I'm investing 5K, am I invested in the company, or am I just buying lottery tickets?
Well, I will answer the first one and then the second one. So, yeah, in the long-term perspective, we are talking like 2, 3, 4 years. If we want to build a portfolio, like totally, we will have to spend 100,000 K plus. Right. I agree with you. So if you understand that, okay, I have like 20K and that's it. And I don't know, for example, I gained this money through something, but I won't be able to gain anything like that anymore anytime soon. Then probably that's not the best way to invest the money. Probably it's better to find other assets, which are more, I would say, safe, because this is a very risky asset, right? You can gain a lot, but you can lose as well. And that's kind of the first one. So that yeah, you need to have this 100K. And the second was about
About the lottery tickets,
lottery.
yeah.
It's
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 a
it's yeah. Well, I was participating in some conversation with other investors and syndicates, and they say that it's gambling. Well, of course, at some way you can look at it as a gambling, but when you invest, like you invest this 5,000, you invest, you get the actually you get the documents. So you invest in this syndicate, right? In this structure, which is a regulated structure. You have everything. It's not like just one paper or a term sheet that you sign and you hope that one day, like you will get something. No, there is a track of everything. There are all documents signed by all the parties and everything is out there. But of course, if we look at it like, will is there a possibility that the company will collapse and I will get nothing? Yes. Is it possible that I will lose these 5,000? Yes. So what we say is, of course, this is the asset that you invest in not like the first kind of like, okay, so I'm starting to to earn some money. What shall I do with some small capital? First thing, of course, venture. No, first you go,
Gamble.
yeah, first you buy yourself, I don't know, some real estate. You have a home. First you have something, some assets that you can actually that have some liquidity as well, etc. But if you have some piece of the capital which is still lying out there, and you're thinking, okay, shall I buy another, I don't know, so some piece of some maybe some crypto again, or shall I invest into something else, or maybe I could try and start building my venture portfolio, because we know that this in a long term, that might be a very good story, right? And very successful one. So that's definitely something to be very cautious about.
Okay,
But
Marek,
then
I don't like the gambling like approach. It's high risk, right?
Yeah,
It's what
yeah, it
venture
is.
investing is about. But so yeah, you said that your investors could lose their money, and this is like obvious in this line of investing. But are there any like positive stories?
Of course, of
Do you
course.
have any, some spectacular liquidity events that you can talk
Yeah,
about?
I will be happy to. But by the way, if talking about this write-offs, right? Write-offs that happens, uh, we are very proud, because in the venture industry, like there is this benchmark that VCs might have up to 50% of their portfolio as write-offs, and that's fine, because they will find some stars that will help them, to be successful at the end. As for us, both the fund and the and iClub, we were able to get that at the 10-15%. So 10% for iClub and 15% for the fund. And I think that's really, really a very good benchmark, and we are keeping that. And now we are even thinking about improving that for iClub investors. How? Because before, what we did was the fund chooses the deal, pre-seed or seed, and at the same time, iClub comes in, right? And iClub investors invested in pre-seed and seed companies, sometimes with no product, sometimes with like MVP, etc. And all those 10% of write-offs from the whole portfolio of iClub, which is 94 companies, only 10%. So all these companies that were written off, they were pre-seed. So we thought about that, and what we decided, that okay, first of all, we have this write-off. Second of all, it's very difficult for a private investor to make decision on investing into company when it's very early stage. There are no documents, no traction, no clients potentially. So it's very difficult. So we thought, okay, why then we use our fund as this kind of first pioneer who comes in and risks money, because with VC firm it's a bit different approach and math and everything. So they come in, they risk, and when the company shows traction, we get the company and we show it to iClub. And we have been using this approach during last year, and it really works very well. It's much easier to sell the company to iClub investors, because they ask for traction. Here it is. They ask for clients, testimonials. Here they are. So they can get everything. They can Google the company. They can read public news. So they get much more information to make the decision, right? So that write-off percentage is going to be lower. We just believe that, because we see what type of companies were written off. And as for success stories, yeah, absolutely. There, we even in iClub, which has been operating since 2018, we already have 11 exits. And of course, some of them are at the level of couple of axes, like 2, 3, 4 axes. But we have some examples when we were able to gain 14, 18, 19, and even 22 axes in the company, in the exit. And this 22x exit is a very interesting case I could share, because it's the one of the latest ones. So we invested in a company in 2020, TA Ventures and iClub, and it was very early. And of course, it was very. We got many questions from investors then, and not many investors wanted to participate, because the company was a company that were offering, like Pampers by subscription. So you could buy it for your kids by subscription,
Right.
and
So,
it was
so
like,
subscription D2C.
yeah. And then it was like, really, what is so innovative about that? And we said, business model. Okay, but well, the market is already, there are some, some huge players on the market. How we are going to, to compete? And we said, there is a strong team, there is a new business model, and they're going to win. And they won. And just in 2024, in summer, we basically exited on a secondary scenario. So their larger investor came in and bought out our shares, and we made this success for our investors. And some investors, for example, they invested 25,000 at 4 years ago, and then just in 4 years they received the result, which is over 500,000, right? So of course, it's not every case like that. Not every exit is like that, but that's why we are talking about portfolio. Because if you build the strong portfolio and diversified portfolio, then there will be 1, 2, 3 stars, and they will bring you like results like that.
Okay, I want to switch our focus maybe a bit to geography, because you mentioned 42 countries, 6,000 investors. That seems impressive. So how many of those investors are first of all active out of the 6,000, and second of all, from where they are, and are they from Poland?
Yeah, that's a good question. So so we have 6,000. Of course, not all 6,000 are investing, and I would say that we have around 30% of investors who are very active, meaning that they are investing regularly. Then we would have another, I would say, 10% of investors that they already have built their portfolio, and they are now either investing on occasionally, 1, 2 deals per year, or they are expecting their results and they want to invest after they get the returns. As for the geography, so of course we started in Ukraine, and we have like all the 80%, 85% today. Those are investors that have Ukrainian origin, but they are based all over Europe. And at some point we started building our small hubs in different countries. And as I was based in Poland, it was very obvious that, okay, so let's start to work from Poland and in Poland, and try to look for investors who might be interested in joining our syndicate. And what interesting findings I could share. So first of all, of course, they are Polish angels, and I personally know them. And I have been working, and I am a part of the team at Startup Hub Poland. So I know like a lot of people in the ecosystem. And first thing was that the comment that I got was, okay, but we are already investing as angels in different syndicates here in Poland. I asked, okay, but what companies are you investing in? They said, well, Polish. I said, great. I also believe that if you have opportunity, you have to support your ecosystem first, but then you have to diversify. And why not add something from other regions? Okay. Another thing is, I would say that Polish investors are very conservative. They need more time to make the decision. Usually, when we present a deal, we have a couple of weeks to close the location, right? So that's a couple of weeks when you can ask questions, like visit a call with the founder, get any answers you need, get any materials you need, but this is just a couple of weeks. And for many like Polish investors, it was, well, it's too soon. I know, for example, my friends here in Poland, they are also having some kind of angel club, which is a very closed one. And what they tell me is that sometimes it takes like years, to build this relationship before somebody invests. So it's very long cycle. And I would say that somehow angel investors with Ukrainian, background, they are much more risky. And they have different approach. They ask many questions. They want to know everything about the deal. They are very like, they spend time on making sure what they are investing in, but still they are able to make that decision that fast, with that part, like that access to the information. Yeah, and basically I would say that these two things were like crucial in terms of whether somebody invested or not. So we don't have active Polish investors yet, but I hope that it's just time. It's just time because there are more and more successful entrepreneurs, right, who have succeeded in tech industry, in venture industry, and they have capital now. And I'm sure that they will, they will look for ways to make this capital work. And we are just one of the tools they might use, not the only, but one of, right? So basically, I think it's just the matter of time for maybe a bit different mindset of angel investors to be here. I know that there are other players in the Polish market, and I know all of them. I know all of them personally. I mean, syndicates, other syndicates in Poland, and all of them are investing in Polish founders only. That's great. As I say, that's great as a start. But if we are talking about diversification, I would definitely consider go broader. But again, that's next step.
Mm. But you comparing Poland and Ukraine, do you have any other experiences with CE or I don't know, German? I'm just asking about neighboring countries, right? Because we
Yeah.
are trying to get
Yeah.
the patterns and the comparisons in in the same area.
I would say that, for example, there, if we have some investors and we communicate with some syndicates in the UK, and they are also interested in investing, and sometimes they even invest not only in UK founders, but for example, in UK, it's very common to invest into immigrants. To the founders that come to the market and they build something in the market. But again, they want to invest in the UK because they got some tax benefits from that, and they prefer to do it there. They don't want to go outside, because why to go outside if here I can actually benefit. So that's one thing why angel investors from UK would concentrate only on investing in their region. We have some German and Austrian investors on board as well, who have been investing in some deals from that region. And again, they are very much focused on the region, very much. So, of course, those companies are global because they are now building in the region, but they have a global potential. But still, they come from that region. And I think that, well, it's great, as I say, to support the region, but in terms of the, geographical diversification, which is very important, and we have seen it couple of years that we are now in, we see how important it is to have access to different ecosystems, because you never know what happens, and when one market goes down and another market goes up, so it's better to have this diversification. But yeah, still the thing about having investing locally, it still is there. We see some progress, and I hope that just again time the question of the time, and it will change, the approach will change, because we see that that's the only way, right? That's the only way.
I think I missed this part, but when you select startups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this theme of investing locally, right, is repeating. when you select startups, do you select startups that go global from day one, or you also invite startups that work on the local market, because that also influences the decisions of the investors.
Yeah, of course. Well, for example, we have a company which is Leaky24. This is a Ukrainian company, and they started in Ukraine. They were building in Ukraine and testing their product in Ukraine. There are like many people using their product now in Ukraine. But then they understand that like this is a small market and they need to go further. And like while working on this strategy, what they understood that they can become a pan-European player, and that's the strategy that they chose and they they implement. And for us, it was like from the day one. Okay, so you are now in Ukraine, but what's like what's your next step? So for us, it's important, even if they are now working on the local market, so that they have a very clear roadmap to how they are going to go to the global markets. As the sooner they do it, the better. Because, for example, with Leaky24, what they see now, when they want to raise funds from European investors are saying, okay, it's great, you have a great product, you have like excellent traction, but we wanted your traction to be more European than Ukrainian, So there is always this point when you just need to do that. And of course, understanding this, we choose the founders accordingly. So do you have a strategy to scale, right? And to scale means to get to the larger markets, and be it like pan-European, or be it the US. For example, we are now investing rather actively in Southern Eastern Asia, and this is a huge market. And actually, for sometimes it's even not like it might be a good add-on, a good bonus if the company would succeed in the US, for example, as the next step. But they might be as well. It might be as well enough for them to succeed in their region. Middle East, for example, same huge region, very specific. Like there is the specific related to the language, and we have a couple of companies that are leveraging that language specific. And again, for us, even if they succeed in this region, they would be huge. It might be nice to them to have additional additional markets, but it might be enough even to be regional. So it depends on the region, right, where the company is based.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about like working with startups, right? If you invested in the portfolio and you're co-invested with TA Ventures, how how the support for the portfolio company is divided between the fund, which is obviously probably heavily involved, and the business angels that decided to go via iClub.
So yeah, of course, the fund is very much hands-on. And this is, I would say that the fund is here kind of representing us and representing our investors. But sometimes we have some introductions or some business opportunities that come from our huge network of angel investors, and we are very much open to that, and our founders are open to that, of course. And sometimes there is some kind of the expertise that our investors could share, or some network they could share. So that definitely works. But the fund is, I would say, on the frontier. So they are hands-on, and they are spending a lot of time, because in our case, for example, we invest globally. But still, for us, it is crucial that somebody from the investment team meets the founders face to face before we invest. That's why our partners in the fund, they're traveling like during the year. They are not, they don't have like one base. They are based in different geographies. Our general partner Victoria, she's traveling throughout the whole world, because she has to be sometime in the US, then she goes to Europe, then she goes to Asia, then she goes to Middle East, and that's how she divides her her year. So to be present in those regions and just to meet personally with portfolio companies, to shake hands, to visit offices. She just sends us photos from the offices. Okay, so I'm talking with these guys. I'm having a coffee with these guys. I'm just visiting a factory or a lab of our portfolio company, look at this, look at this equipment. So we're like that, and we are very much hands-on, and we want to be close so that we feel when it's a good time, that the company is going up, or the company has some difficulties, whether we can help or it's time just for us to back off, etc. So it's important for us to be as much present as possible.
But for iClub members, the app is also like a channel for communication, or it's more outside that
You mean for investors to communicate between themselves or with the founders?
No, with the founders that I invested in a company, right? Then
Yeah. So we provide, for example, we provide reporting to our investors, so they can open the app and they have the reporting from the companies. But we can't, like, it would be just impossible if all like 100 investors would try to send a personal note to a founder. It's like too much of a burden. And we know that like our founders, they are crazy workaholics. All of them, they work a lot and they focus on their on their company. That's why when they are fundraising, they are open to have conversation with our investors, right? So we always have a call. We call it a deep dive call, where we invite everybody to participate, ask questions, just leave, ask questions, and have a very honest, direct conversation. Then we can send questions to founders, but we also try to kind of support and help founders to keep their focus, not to kind of take them away from their day-to-day job and just communicate with all the 6,000 investors in iClub. And our investors, they get it, and they are happy to get the chance to connect with the founders when we have the call. But then they are fine to get the information through our team, and we try to be very responsive, etc. But yeah, we also try to give our founders space they need to to perform, to execute.
Super.
So let me pick your brain for a moment here, because
Sure.
again, let's deliver something valuable for our viewers,
Sure.
our founders. Do you have any? What are your best suggestions, best ideas for the startup founders? What should they do, or what should they stop doing in order to attract investments more efficiently and be on the radar of investors? What's your advice here?
Oh, yeah. So definitely, I would. One important thing that I would suggest founders to do is to work on their market. What I see a lot, especially in Eastern Europe, not only in Poland but in Eastern Europe as a region, is that founders have very small ambitions, and that's not interesting to VCs. Not only our VC, right? Not only TA Ventures, but just VC is, like venture capitalists, they are people that like ambition and they like potential. They like potential returns, and potential returns are possible if there is, if there is a market potential for the company. And what I've seen, like time over time, it just like this week, at the beginning of this week, I was participating in the Capitula for to get in Startup Hub Poland, because they are now having a program and they are choosing the startups. And I was participating and listening to startups. And one of the startups was presenting an interesting idea, and they have a very, I would say, ambitious vision for the product. But then they showed the market, and they showed like classical Tom Samsom, our favorite. And then I look at this song, and straight away, like 20 million. For me, it's like like a red flag for a bull. I have red.
Maybe they were just honest.
I ask them, because when I see such things, I always ask. That's my, that would be my question number one. So, have you like, is it really like, is it what you are looking for? Because what was presented was like Tom was, I think, 400 billion. Then Sam was something like 80 billion, and then there was this this very, very
That was
tiny.
misprint. That was misprinted. They meant 20 billion then.
I hoped. I asked them, is it what you are targeting for in 5 years? They said yes, and I said, well, you should consider adding 1 0, at least 1 0, maybe even 2, but at least 1 0. You know, and they were looking at me like with the question, what's wrong with that? And I've seen it at other competitions and other demo days when I ask founders, is it really your ambition? Is it what you want to reach in 5 years? 5 years. It's not like 12 months. It's 5 years. You want to make 20 million. So what's the point then in investing money in it? If you want to build a company, a business, just a very, I would say, classical business with just for you and for your family, or for your children to then take over, that's wonderful. That's a great result. If you can get some part of 20 million at the end of the year, that's wonderful. Just I would clap and I would say bravo. But if you're talking about we want to actually raise funds from VCs, I have questions. So why would I invest in the company with 20 million SOM if I'm looking at the companies like regularly that have like hundreds or billions, hundreds, millions or billions SOM? So what would I choose as a VC? Of course, I want to choose large market. Of course, maybe I won't be the part of the company as a VC till the end, till the moment they actually get that. But still, I would be able to sell my shares to other investors at a very good price if there is this potential. So that's a very important thing. And I would just advise every founder to look at their market once again, to look at what they want to achieve, and whether this is a venture story or this is just some business that they can build themselves without attracting any money and without having any problems with investors, but just for themselves. So that's one thing. And maybe just not to take too much of our time, another very different thing for the founders to get on the radar of investors, right? So today what everybody's talking about is like personal brand, right? And I would say that I was seeing how it works even before it became a trend. I have a mentee. I have been working with her in some program, in some acceleration program, a couple of years ago. And the whole idea of the program was that we as mentors, we were to help mentees to raise money. And it was very funny because when we started our mentorship with her, she was already raising. She was in the process, and till the end of our mentorship, she has raised successfully. And I was not at all, to be kind of part of it, because I was there, of course, supporting her, providing some feedback, but she did it herself. And the huge part of that was that she built a very strong personal brand, which was representing her company, and she was able to reach enormous number of investors at very early stage, only because she was out there and she was kind of she was mirroring the principles of her company as a person. And she was interesting to read. She was always she had great ideas, etc. But she was out there in a very professional way, not just participating in every program, participating in every competition, participating in every networking event. And the question is, when do you work, right? But she was selecting right things, giving giving interviews for the largest newspaper in Germany because she's from Germany, or participating in some TV show for startups, so she was picking those cherries. And yeah, she was successful to raise her first round, then the second one, and now she's in the process of raising the third time. So she's she's really good at that. But I think that foundation was to get, how do I get access to investors? How do they start noticing me? By building a very strong founder expert brand, this girl, she knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing at this particular industry. She has a like very clear vision, and we want to support that. Yeah, so these would be two advice. Very different. Very different, but yeah, but still.
No, it's interesting because you're one of few of our guests that mentioned this ambition thing. But I today I've got a different, I think, advice from you, that it's not about having an ambition, but to decide whether you go for a venture or for a lifestyle
Yes.
business.
Yes.
So maybe it's not about having, because it's a less valuable advice. Be ambitious, right? But I'm not, right? So maybe this is not the thing you're going for.
Absolutely. And the earlier we decide that, the earlier we find out about that, the better. I had a mentee in one program, and it was funny. We had one session when we met. She said, after your workshop, I started thinking whether I want to have a venture business or not. I said, okay, let's go there. Let's go there. And then we were discussing, talking, and then she said, I don't want that. I don't want that. I said, you saved yourself a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy on this decision. And that's very important. And now she's happy. She's doing some lifestyle, things, but she's happy. She's not kind of, doing the thing that she was driven to do by, I don't know, by the ecosystem, by the opinions, by, I don't know, whatever. So yeah, thank you, Arik. That's excellent point. That's absolutely that. Yeah,
that's great insight. Anna, like a closing question from us on iClub. So what's the future for iClub? Are you trying to expand to more countries or more diverse angels? What's the future?
We have a very we have a huge ambition. We don't have a problem with that.
Perfect. You want to raise some money, or
yeah, so well, we've built a fintech product. We are now a fintech product, so potentially anything is possible. But now we are building the right ecosystem and infrastructure for our angel investors. Of course, we want to grow, and 10,000 is just a very, I would say, humble plan for this 2026. So what we want to achieve, and we actually closed 20 million the previous year together with our investors. So we invested 20 million during 2025. We definitely want to double it or even triple it this year, and we have a plan how to do that. But I want to speak about the mission, and maybe more kind of romantic thing, but I think that's something that drives us a lot. We want to educate hundreds of angel investors. It's our goal to educate angel investors, to help them understand how all this crazy venture world works, that how beautiful it is, actually, how wonderful it is. And if they are ready, if they have the possibility to join it, but to join it after getting as much knowledge and information as possible, because there are so many things for a startup, right? So there are podcasts, there are books, there are acceleration programs, there are so many books for VCs and programs for VCs, but not so much for angel investors, for private investors, for people who are just they're thinking, okay, I'm just a person, I'm an entrepreneur, can I be an investor, or is it something crazy I'm thinking about? No, that's not crazy. I say that entrepreneurs are the best investors because they've done it. They know what to look at, and what to look for in the company to be successful. So they are the best investors, and we want to educate. We have a huge plan for this year. You will hear about us, you will see us, and of course we want, as diversification is good in everything, in investment, but also in in investors. We want diverse investors because they bring different backgrounds, different perspectives, which is important. And we want to increase the number of non-Ukrainian investors in our syndicate. And I hope that also thanks to such conversations as today's, we'll be able to reach more than just our usual audience. And yeah, that's our goal, to grow, but also not just to grow, crazy grow without any purpose, but to grow with the purpose of educating and helping join this magnificent journey called venture capital.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it first. We will check with you in a year. We'll see
Yeah.
how
Sure.
that went.
Would be happy
Bring
to.
investments into. Okay. So yes, as we are, getting to the end of the interview, we always ask our guests the same three questions, and just one request: just give your first, idea, just quick answers, whatever comes to your mind. It's usually the best answer here. So the first one, maybe I can start. First one is, what's your unique value for for the what you bring as a person to the table, for if someone wants to um work with you, right?
I'm very open in sharing. I believe that I once this industry took me and gave me a lot, and I believe that now I have to give away a lot. So I'm very open to sharing, and I share a lot knowledge, insight, everything. I'm very open and very so I'm very talkative and transparent. I give my peace of mind without any problem, without any censorship. Maybe it's bad, but still. And I think that's good. That helps. And I often hear, "Oh, thank you. That was rough, but that was very helpful." And that's me. I think that's the value I bring.
Okay, perfect. The second question is about anti-portfolio, and it could be for iClub, it could be for you. What was the stuff that you missed, or you were too late, or you wanted to?
Well, we had a company that we missed early stage, which is now in our portfolio. Company Zili. It's Ukrainian founders, and but we joined the round that was not the first one, and we were a bit kind of disappointed that we were not the first ones to kind of discover those stars, because they are stars, like real stars. And we kind of lost on that, and we still remember that. But these things happens a lot in when you're in venture industry. You lose, you gain, you lose, you gain, like every day. You can't find one thing, but that's one that I remember. It was kind of like that.
And the last one, what's the view that you hold, that it's something which is probably not shared by most of the people? What's your contrarian view on something? It could be investing, could be personal, whatever.
Oh, for example, not everybody thinks that thinking about your financial modeling and financial, forecast and numbers is important early stage. I talk with funders a lot, and they tell me, we just have an MVP. We don't have anything. What do you want from us? How we can build, a forecast? And that's the worst mistake you can make. And I just, I actually hold webinars and workshops on financial modeling and explain how important it is when you prepare your deck, because you need a document to help you, put your ideas out there. And pitch deck helps you to structure that. So as soon as you structure your ideas into pitch deck, you sit down and you prepare a financial model. And not everybody agrees with me, and they say, okay, we can go without that. We can just say some numbers. No, that's important. That helps you to understand. Maybe there is there is no potential. It's better not to do that. and there are many things you can take as insights. And I've seen that. And too late, for example. And that's why I believe that's the thing you have to have, like a first thing. That's my
Okay,
point of view.
thank you. And that was the last question.
Thank you.
We're super happy to have you today with
Likewise.
us. I hope the viewers were also like that. If you have any questions, any comments, there's a space in comments where you can leave them. So everyone, just please leave your opinions about that episode. And I hope that yes, as Arek said, we'll be monitoring the iClub progress.
Thank you, Anna,
Okay.
for your great
Thank you.
insight and
Thank
this
you.
conversation. Thank
you
you.
very much for inviting. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.